Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Inside Pitch with Joe Mansolino and my co-host Paul Marini. Tonight we're going to be talking about teams that are on a streak, that are getting it together or losing it. But first, I'm going to turn it over to Paul, and we're going to thank some of you listeners.
And it is a beautiful day for a ball game, or to talk about a ball game.
It's always a beautiful day for a ball game.
Well, Joe, we want to talk. This is our fourth week with this show, our fourth episode. And we want to thank our top 15 cities who have been tuning in religiously. And we want to tip our hat, Pensacola, Florida, home of the studio, our number one city. We appreciate you guys. Foley, Alabama, number 2 city. L.A., Los Angeles, California, your old stomping grounds in there at number 3.
Thank you, L.A.
And Cub fans are coming through. They know we're talking about the Cubbies, and they're tuning in. Chicago, Illinois is number 4. Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, Buffalo, New York, Newark, California, San Diego, California, Kyiv in the Ukraine is in at number 10. Redmond, Washington, Menlo Park, California, Torrance, California, and Jonesboro, Arkansas.
And we thank you all very much for listening.
And many, many, many more.
Many more. And we thank you all. And like we said, tonight we're going to be talking about the teams that are on a streak. And you got to start that with talking about the Blue Jays and the Cubs. The last 12 games, they're both 11-1. The Blue Jays have won all 11 in a row. The Cubs have won 7 in a row. And the Blue Jays in particular, can you be any hotter than 11-1 and 11 wins in a row?
I don't think you can. The Blue Jays got everything put together. Blue Jays haven't lost a game since they played the Kansas City Royals, and they lost a 7-6 heartbreaker to a very good Royals team. But since then, the Blue Jays have gone on to a 5-2 win over the Royals, a 5-1 win over the Twins, 3-1, 9-7, 9-3, hanging incredible run totals up there. 2-1 over the Yankees, 6-0 over the Yankees, 2-0 over the Yankees. Then they got into Oakland. They just finished that series where they wound up outscoring Oakland. Get this, Joe. Outscoring Oakland 18-7.
They're amazing. I mean, they're doing everything you need to do to win. They're hitting, they're pitching, they're playing good defense. They have it all together. They've passed the Yankees, and they are just really, really gelling at the right time.
And if there's any time that you want to gel, right now is the time. If you are the on the receiving end of any of these games, if you're in the mix of any of these games, this is the time you want to bring it together. And of course, we're talking a little bit about the Cubs and what they're doing. And looking at the Cubs right now, they're in the 8th inning against the crosstown rival White Sox, and the Cubs are up 6-5 in the 8th. And it's nip and tuck there, but every game the Cubs play seems to be nick and tuck.
Again, just like the Blue Jays, though, they're scoring runs, they're playing well, all except, a few errors here and there, but they are just getting it together. And with the Blue Jays, it seems like the players responded to the transactions before the deadline. They went out, they got Price, they got Troy Tulowitzki, and the players, it just lit them up, and they're just going.
And we can talk about this stuff all day long, which we do. But if you're the Cubs, you got to really look at the Cubs going back to we just got an update on the Cubs. Are now going into the 9th inning. 9th inning, Cubs still up 6-5. So looks like Cubs could possibly pull out another win today. But if you want to look at the Cubs, the biggest reason the Cubs are where they are, it really boils down to 4 key players. Taking nothing away from the pitching performance by Jake Otteret, I can never pronounce his last name, and John Lester, but Kyle Schwarber, the rookie, in his last 10 games, Joe, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, and 3 walks. I mean, and you can add another one today. He has another RBI today. So 14 RBIs, 5 homers, and 3 walks.
Well, and that's what you want to see. You want to see guys hit home runs. You want to know they're looking at the pitches, too. You like to see your guys who are hitting home runs getting walks. I mean, that's a really good sign. That means that you are in key with what's going on. You're seeing the ball well. That's really important. They're doing it right now.
And if you just go down, Anthony Rizzo is another one. In the last 10 games, 7 home runs, 21 RBIs. 21 RBIs in the last 10 games.
That's not a bad month for some people.
And walking, and taking the base 4 times. What it's showing is that these guys are not only are they hitting the ball for power and they're hitting the ball in key situations, is they're being patient. They're taking that walk. They're working that pitcher.
They're looking for the pitch.
I watched Dexter Flowers the other day against the Brewers. Took 24 pitches. Made the pitcher throw 24 pitches in that one at bat in the first inning. The opening batter, he went 24 pitches deep.
And that'll get a pitcher out of the game real quick. You keep doing that.
Absolutely, and they did that against the Brewers. But Chris Bryant, 4 home runs, 18 RBIs, 5 walks, and Addison Russell. Remember Addison Russell? Nobody had him on their list but me.
I do.
Addison Russell comes up 2 home runs, 6 doubles, 7 RBIs, 6 walks. This is the astonishing part of this, what we're talking about here. In 10 games, the Cubs have hung 18 home runs, 44 runs, and 18 walks in just 4 players.
And that says it all. They are in a zone. They're playing as a team. It's really exciting. And who would have thought? The Cubs are only 7.5 games back and playing well. 11-1 in the last 12, 7 in a row. I think the Cardinals have to look out.
Oh, absolutely. I think without a doubt they have to look out. And really, if you go back and look at the Cubs and what they're doing right now, I mean, this entire month, they've lost 1 game.
I mean, they're really
in
playing
the
well.
entire month.
The Pirates are still ahead of them by a game and a half, but the Pirates haven't been playing well. They are 7-5 in their last 12. Pretty much 550 ball. That's not going to do it when the Cubs are right behind you playing the way they're playing. I'm sure they're feeling the heat worse than the Cardinals are right now.
And you're also looking at 4 shutouts in that run.
Yeah, their pitching has been really steady, real successful.
They shut the Giants out 2-0. They shut the Pirates out 5-0. They come back and they shut the Phillies out 5-0. And there was one more in here somewhere. It's just the amount of shutouts. I've not seen a Cubs team in a long time put this many shutouts together, put this many games where they're scoring in bunches. I'm talking games like 7, 9 runs, 11 runs, 9 runs, 5 runs, 4 runs, 4 runs, 4 runs, 5 runs, 7. You start averaging above 2 runs this time of the season, and you're going to do okay.
Yes, you are. And they are doing okay. And I don't think you've seen a Cub team that's won this many games this consistently in your lifetime, probably.
I really haven't. With the exception of the year that they played the Marlins.
Right.
That's really the only other time. And we just got another update, Joe, and the White Sox have runners on first and second with 1 out. So the White Sox not going away, which is typical Chicago Cub baseball.
That's inner city baseball. When you're playing your local team, you want to beat them. You want to dominate that city.
But anyhow, getting on to your list of teams that you see that are working on or trying to hang on, I know you got the Yankees on that list somewhere, and they're having their issues right now.
They're having their issues. I mean, the Blue Jays on this streak of 11-1 have passed them. The Yankees are a half game back now. In their last 12, they're 5-7, so they're not playing well. They had lost 5 in a row up until yesterday when they did win. So they're really struggling. The Rays are right behind them, 5 back. The Orioles are 5.5 back. But the Orioles aren't playing that well. They've been 5-6 in the last 11 games. The Rays have been playing pretty good. They're 8-3 in their last 11 and have won 4 in a row. So they're chasing the Yankees too and are going to get ready to pass them. But the Blue Jays just look like they're gelling at the right time, and they really have it together. And then we can go to the Central Division. The Royals are out there. They're still not playing that well right now. In their last 12, they're only 7-5, but they're 11 games ahead in that division. So I think they've got the Central locked up. And then we can go to the West. The Astros are in first over the Angels by a game and a half, but they're not playing well. They're 4-7 out of their last 11 and have only just won the last one.
And they've really struggled against West Coast teams. I mean, they've struggled really bad with the Athletics. They dropped 3 of 4 in their series with them, and they're struggling now with the Giants. They're 1-1 in that series with the Giants. But just even, I mean, they got swept by the Rangers. The Astros are. This is not the time in the American League West to start slipping.
No, it's not. And especially for some of those teams. I think the Angels, this is the year they have to do it. With Trout and Pujols playing the way they've been, this is their time to do it. If they don't do it this year, I think you see a lot of changes.
And the Angels are only a game and a half back right now. So, the Astros are really helping them out.
They are helping them out, but the Angels aren't taking advantage of it. They are only a game and a half back, but up until yesterday when they won, they had lost 3 in a row. 5-7 out of these last 12. That's not going to cut it. That's not going to get you back into first. The Rangers, like I said, are 5 games back, 7-5. They're not doing anything to get back into the race either, but they're still hanging in there right now.
And the Angels, they can't continue, Joe, to have problems with subpar teams. Like being swept by the White Sox. The White Sox should never sweep the Angels.
Any contending team, they just shouldn't.
Never sweep. Then they lost the series to the Dodgers. They got swept by the Dodgers not too long ago. They gave up. They lost the series to the Orioles. They lost the series to the Indians, and this is all in the last two weeks.
Right, and I can see the Orioles, but you don't lose to the Indians. You don't lose. They're just, it's just a struggle. The Angels are really struggling, and I think Mike Scioscia's got to be concerned.
If you're Scioscia, are you concerned for your job at this point? Does he become a coach on the hot seat if they can't get this ship righted? Does the upper management look at Scioscia and go, well, it's been a great run, but maybe we need a fresh look at this?
Unfortunately, I think so. I don't think in today's game there's a better manager than Scioscia, but I think so because they did what they could do. They've given the players. They've paying a lot of money to have these guys. For all year, Trout and Pujols have been producing, and yet they find themselves right now 1.5 back of the Astros.
Joe, we got a call. Hey, caller, welcome to the show, The Inside Pitch. Tell us who you are and where you're calling from.
I'm calling from California.
Hey, this is Pat from via California from Newark, New Jersey. How you doing, Pat?
Good.
Why does this guy sound like Mr. Yankee to me?
He is Mr. Yankee.
Mr. Yankee. We were just talking about your Yankees.
Pat, what do you think about the Yankees? What's going on now?
Well, I just think that they're finally, look, they played way over their head. Let's be honest about it.
I agree with that.
And these guys are just not enough to hold a pennant run. The starting pitching is not healthy yet. Come on. Look, Tanaka's not been the same. Nova's recovering from injury. Sabathia really is coming to the end.
Very much. I agree with that.
And as far as their hitting goes, come on, guys. Hey, Mark Teixeira is a streaky hitter. He had his streak. Aaron is playing way over his head.
And slowing down.
The shortstop and second base, third base, while they're fielding good, they're just not hitting.
Do you think they should have made a move before the trade deadline?
Of course they should have went and got another top reliever to give them that solid, like just like the old days when you had Nelson and Stanton and Rivera. Just like, Kansas City set it up. You gotta have 3.
And they did set it up, and that's why they're in first.
Right. And the Yankees didn't do that. And they didn't go get another top-line pitcher. They needed that other pitcher.
They did need that other pitcher. What else? You think they needed anything else?
Right now, they had to stand up, but that would have been it. If they would have got that reliever and that top pitcher, they'd still be in first place.
I was surprised because they, as you know, they have the money. I think they should have went out after Troy Tulowitzki to play shortstop.
Hey, here's the thing. When you got a quality guy like Tulowitzki, 298 lifetime average, 191 homers, he's a Derek Jeter clone. You know, he's not as good as Jeter, but he plays the game like that. He's a solid shortstop. He's a spark plug. You got to pick this guy up. You know what? They went after Flash. Dick Gregorius is going to make all these flashy plays, but he's not a clutch player like Tulowitzki.
No, he's not.
Tulowitzki was made for the Yankees.
I think that's true, and I think they're going to... Well, I already think they're regretting that decision, watching the Blue Jays pass.
I'm telling you, north of the border, they're going to argue with you and say that he was meant to be with the Blue Jays. Him and David Price.
Well, that's the point. You put this guy in a line, you put this guy on a team, and he's a spark plug. Look, the best player in baseball is Mike Trout, correct?
Correct.
I'll give you that.
You got Troy Tulowitzki, a solid ball player, spark plug, plays the game the right way. Who were these two? Who was their idol? Derek Jeter. They played a game like that.
And he did. And what team was that Jeter was on again?
The great New York Yankees.
At one time, yes, they were.
Oh, that was just slow. Oh, my goodness. That was a...
I'm a big Troy Tulowitzki fan. The way he plays the game. This guy, you put him in a lineup, his presence automatically sparks the team.
I agree with that 100%. I think if you're a baseball fan, you have to be a Troy Tulowitzki fan. Whether he's on your team or not, you have to like his play and his style because, like you're inferring, he plays the game the way it's supposed to be played.
It is so much easier. It is so much easier to like him when he's wearing your team's jersey. So much easier to like him.
Very much so.
But you know, Mr. Yankee, you could have picked up a good shortstop for a song and dance at the trade deadline, and nobody picked him up because the Cubs were shopping Sterling Castro, and it wouldn't have took much to get him, and he's better at short than what you currently have.
Well, the Yankees are stuck on this guy. I don't know this. You know, one thing about the Yankees, when they like a ball player, they stick with him until the end. And unfortunately, the end is coming quickly.
Well, and I think that's Mattingly's problem in L.A. with some of the outfielders. You know, he's sticking with Carl Crawford, and nobody sees it except Mattingly, but he's playing that Yankee style where he's sticking with him.
Well, the problem with the Dodgers, if they don't move guys like Crawford while they can still get something for him, then you're going to be stuck with a guy that has no value, and you're not going to get anything out of him. You're going to wind up paying somebody to take him. And how many times do you see that happen?
Well, they're doing that with Matt Kemp right now.
There you go.
I don't... Carl Crawford, I don't think anybody wants him.
I think you're right. I think you're right, and I think part of what Paul said is very true. That take aside that Mattingly's doing the Yankee thing and is sticking with his guy, they are in part playing him, hoping that he does something so they can get value for him. But he's done. I think he's done.
Yeah. Ever since he got hurt in Boston, he's never been the same.
And that's true. And you know, and back to Tulowitzki. If you think about it, because I think he would be successful anywhere, but there's going to be a lot less pressure on him in Toronto than there would have been in New York.
Oh, he would have been, already the next Jeter because he loves the guy so much.
Right.
And, but this guy, You know what, Joe? I don't think pressure bothers Tulowitzki.
I'll
don't
agree
think
with
it does
that.
either.
I agree with that. I think that he just gets in his zone and does his thing and wins.
You know what the key is? Working hard, just like Derek Jeter. You take a look at the top players, Trout and him, and these guys work very hard, Joe. People don't realize it.
And that's true. Behind the scenes, their work ethic is phenomenal. They are, and again, Tulowitzki is one of those guys. One of the first guys at the field, one of the last guys to leave, always working on something, and it shows. And the other players see that, and it lifts them up. And like we said, he's a spark plug. It gets them going. And look what he's done. I mean, in part, him personally, what he's done with Toronto with this streak. 11 wins in a row, 11-1 in their last 12. I mean, that's just amazing baseball. And he's part of that credit.
And they picked up another great piece, David Price.
Boy, hasn't he done well for them.
You don't think they found the ace they needed, do you?
Boy.
I tell you something, with their pitching staff, Dickey and Mark Berry, if they ever start really pitching, wow, Toronto's going to be tough to beat, Joe.
I think Toronto is tough to beat. I don't see anybody right now, and I said it on our first show where I thought Toronto was going to come through and win the division. I think they are. I think the additions they made helps.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think it's them in Kansas City for the American League pennant.
I can see that. I mean, Kansas City is 11 up now, but Kansas City is nowhere near playing as hot as Toronto is.
No, but they don't have to right now.
Well, and that's very true. They don't have the focus, but sometimes when you don't have that and it gets to the end of the year, it's hard to turn the switch.
Right.
Real hard to turn that switch on and off.
It is.
It is really hard, but Kansas City's in a nice spot right now.
Yeah, they're comfortable. They're comfortable.
I mean, just imagine their last 11 games, they're only 4-7, and they're still 11 games up. I mean, they are sitting pretty with, at this point at least, no worries at all.
I want to make a shout out to the greatest athletes I've seen this year, especially the Olympic kids.
Aren't they phenomenal?
Oh my God, Joe! I'm still getting emotional. Man, it was so great and so wonderful, and they love each other. You mean to tell me the smartest people in the world, so-called, can't sit down and settle this thing and make it a peaceful world?
And when you watch them, that's exactly where your mind goes, because those kids are competing against each other while at the same time they're pulling for each other, and like you said, loving each other. It is amazing.
I have to say, to me, one of the greatest people ever, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, what she did with these kids.
Mrs. Shriver started the Special Olympics. Yes, she did, and just what a great thing it's been for our country, for the kids, for the world. I mean, it's just...
My God, Joe, she took a set of people that were put in corners and made them useful citizens. Are you kidding me?
Right. Thank you for bringing them up, because that is an important part of our heritage and of our country.
Hey, Mr. Yankee, I hate to be the one to do this, but I've got to cut you off, buddy. We got to pay some bills and run some ads, but give us a call back, and we love talking to you, my friend.
Thank you, Pat from Newark, New Jersey. You take care. Thanks for calling in.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Where are all the country girls?
They're at farmersonly.com.
Friendly, exceptional service from your friends at David Bowen Sporting Goods. Now, you can also expect lower pricing. Hi, I'm David Bowen, and I'm tired of our customers having to go online or to one of those impersonal national chain stores to save money. Those days are over. Find new, lower pricing on all of the big-ticket items you need at all 4 of our locations. At David Bowen Sporting Goods, we're serious about sports, and now we're serious about low prices.
Pensacola. Are you curious about our coast? Go to visitpensacola.com for the latest information on Pensacola Beach and Perdido Key. Come enjoy 450 years of history. Our unhurried pace soothes your senses with art galleries, world-class museums, festivals, air shows, and great local flavors, all linked by miles of sugar white beaches. So come enjoy Pensacola. Many properties have waived cancellation fees and are offering money-back guarantees. Call or click visitpensacola.com.
Eastbound and down, loaded up and trucking. Are we gonna do what they say can be done? We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound, just watch no bandit run. Keep your foot hard on the pedal, some never mind them brakes.
And Joe, we are back to the inside pitch, and got to do a little eastbound and down because the teams we're talking about, they are trucking, buddy.
They are moving. You know what? We got to talk about the National League too. The Mets have been playing really well. Their last 12, they're 10-2.
And the Mets right now are trailing to the Pirates 1-0 in bottom of the first.
Well,
so
they'll
the
come
Pirates
around.
jumped out on them early.
But they're 10-2 in the last 12 games. They've won 5 in a row. They've passed the Nationals, and the Mets are playing really, really well. The Nats are 4.5 back, not doing well, 4-8.
The Nats are surprisingly not as good as I thought they were going to be. They're really, really struggling. And, man, if you look at them coming out of spring training, I didn't see a team better than them in the National League.
You know, you and a lot of other people. And I think, and we said it the last show, and I really believe it, I think Dusty Baker was the fit for that team. And if he was there, this wouldn't be going on right now. I think they would have run away with it.
Yeah, it's a shame. You know, management makes some decisions sometimes that are questionable at best. But
that's for sure.
Dusty Baker is that player's coach. Guys want to play for Dusty Baker. They want to win for Dusty Baker.
And he wants them to win. I mean, the guy's been manager of the year 3 times, 3 different teams. So there's a lot of teams out there that made a mistake and let him go, and he still doesn't have a job. It's just astounding. I think if he was with the Nationals, they would be running away with it.
Well, you know, the Nats are the Nats, and everybody's going to sit and wait on them to do something, but I Mr. Yankee, you know, with his American League pick, and I'm going to tell you something, man, the National League championship game is going to be a good one, whoever's in it, because the National League's got they got several teams making a bid. But I'm going to tell you what, getting out of the Central is going to be the trick in the National League.
I think the Central's tough. I mean, the Cardinals are always looking good, and they're looking good again this year, 8-4 in their last 12. They lost yesterday, but they're in first by 6 games. You know, the Pirates are back 6, but the Cubs are catching up. They're only 7.5 out now, and like we said, 11-1 in their last 12, 7 wins in a row. I mean, the Cardinals can't just sit there and wait for it to happen. They got to feel the pressure somehow. And then we go to the West. The Dodgers haven't done anything, didn't do anything at the trade deadline to help themselves.
Big mistake. Big mistake. They had opportunities. They had players they could have gotten rid of, even if they weren't getting top billing for them. Right. They could have still went out and got a youngster, somebody in the minor league system. Dodgers this year I don't see the Dodgers this year being in it at the end. But you could have made some moves to help you out for next year.
Well, and I think, again, we're talking about managers who could be in trouble. I think this is it for Mattingly. I think if he doesn't win it this year and the Dodgers don't make it in the playoffs, Mattingly's gone.
And that's tough. I like Don Mattingly. I'd like to see him be successful as a manager. He was a great ball player. Like I said many times, probably one of the best overall hitting first basemen to play the game.
Very consistent, very stable defensively. Yeah. Yes, he was. But that Western Division, I mean, they're still in first, but the Giants are only 2.5 back. But that's with them not playing well. They're 5-7 in their last 12, and they're still only 2.5 back. So what does that say for the Dodgers? When a team is 5-7,
and knocking on the door.
And they're not doing anything. I mean, you're lucky.
And not really knocking. I mean, they're kicking the door in.
Yeah.
The Giants are making some noise.
Well, the Diamondbacks, are doing a little better. They're only 7 games back now.
But that is because the two teams in front of them are struggling, not because the Diamondbacks are doing any better than they were.
That's true.
It's because you have the Dodgers and the Giants that are struggling.
Right. The other two teams are playing basically 500 or below baseball.
Yeah.
So they're getting closer into things. So you're right. It's not a reflection on them being good as much as
everybody else
playing down to that level.
Yeah,
exactly right.
And that won't take you anywhere once the playoffs start.
No.
You cannot get used to playing at a sub 500 level or a subpar level and then expect to go into the playoffs and just be able to kick the switch and be this juggernaut of a team. Because if you look at the National League, you're looking at the Mets, who are on fire. Mm-hmm. You're looking at the very well could have 2 come out of the Central, because you're going to get a wild card out of the Central. So you could. I
think so.
You're looking at either the Cardinals, Pirates, or Cubs winning the Central. It's so tight there, and they still have to play each other.
Right.
And when you get that one-on-one, when you go do the one-on-one thing, you pick up a complete game, a full game in the standing instead of a half game.
That's right. And St. Louis knows what they have to lose. The Pirates know what they have to lose. The Cubs are just young and having fun. I don't think they're going to feel the pressure, and that could hurt the other team.
John Lester did an interview today, and I was watching it on a quick pitch, and John Lester came out and said that when he got traded to the Cubs, he was excited to go to the Cubs, but he was just he was not there. I mean, he was there, but he just was having trouble with the game. The game wasn't fun. He was not enjoying it. And he realized, he said he sat back in the dugout one day and he just watched all the young kids. And he realized they were so loose and they were just going out there and it didn't matter if they were playing the Nationals or if they were playing the Rockies. They just went out and played baseball.
Just had fun.
And they had fun. And then John Lester started to buy into Joe Madden's philosophy of it's a game, guys, let's go enjoy ourselves. And the next thing you know, John Lester's on fire.
He's just
he's pitching
on fire. He's
shutouts after shutouts after shutout, complete games, going deep into the game,
going
7-8
deep,
innings.
Consistent, not walking very many people.
And then you look at the coaching that's done, and anybody can call in and say, hey, you always talk about the Bronco Hour with Ken and Mike, but you're turning this into the Cubs Hour. I'm turning this into the Cubs Hour because the Cubs are really... There's really only 2 teams in baseball right now that deserve to be talked about in this show, being that you're talking about teams that are on the run, they're on the rise, and that is Toronto and the Cubs.
And you got to throw the Mets in there.
And the Mets are starting to make some noise. But look at the coaching of how both in Toronto and in Chicago, how those 2 coaches are utilizing the strengths and not necessarily the position the guy is hired to play. Jason Motts was struggling. He hadn't pitched again since Rodon has gotten hot. And we've had 4 different guys close ball games.
And that's what it's all about as a manager. You have to know your players, know your team, know who fits good where, and learn those kind of things and not be afraid to make the moves when it's time to do that. And a lot of people can't do that.
Well, and I think because as a manager, you get so focused on things such as the guy brings it 104 miles an hour, or he's only a fastball guy, so I can only use him during that time of the game.
Well, and that's it. And some they just focus in on, this is my leadoff hitter.
Well, I mean, you did this. You coached.
This is my batter who's second, and you don't realize, when this guy isn't hitting, drop him down a little in the lineup, and that's really hard for a lot of managers to do.
And you've been there. I mean, you've coached. You've played with some of the best.
When I coached, we would do that. We would take the kids and play to their strengths and move them around. And whoever was hot would be 3, 4, 5. Whoever was getting on base would be leading off. I mean, and you move them around. That's what you have to do.
And don't be afraid to hit your pitcher third. I mean, if you're setting up the lineup and you're thinking that you can hit your pitcher third, fourth, or fifth, and that strengthens the back half of the lineup, to where when it's coming back around, you could have 2 or 3 guys on base for your 1, 2, and 3 guy. Why not move that bat? Why not move that? Joe, we had a phone call. We'll go ahead and take this call.
Let's take it. Hello, who is this?
Good evening. This is Tom from Long Beach.
Tom from Long Beach, California. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, isn't this Dad?
That's him.
Hey, it's Dad. How you doing?
That's my grandpa.
How you doing, son?
No, he's my dad. You can tell by the voice. I know.
That's right. How you doing, son?
I'm doing great. How are you guys today?
We're doing good, man.
Chime on in, Tom. What do you think about who's playing well, who's not? What's going on out there?
Well, it's old news, but I think everybody's talking about the Blue Jays and the Mets, but people are forgetting the Cubs.
I'm not.
Oh, we've been talking about the Cubs too. You're absolutely right.
I know you're not forgetting the Cubs. The last time we talked 3 or 4 weeks ago, you were on the Cubs like flies, man. And I got to give you credit. You were right on.
I appreciate it. And they did it again today. So
there you
they
go.
won again today.
There you go. That's 8 in a row.
It's not too often that you're going to get 3 teams out of one division to make the playoffs, but it's looking more and more like it's the Cardinals, the Pirates, and the Cubs.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the National League Central is that's a scary division to live in right now, my friend.
Yep. I like the way the Mets are coming on too. I mean, the Mets, of course. I think the Nationals, something's wrong there. They need to, and unfortunately, I like the guy, but you start from the top, and it's time to say see you later to Matt Williams, I think.
Tom, we were just talking about that, and I think from the beginning of the year, before they hired him, I always thought Dusty Baker was a much better fit for the organization and for the kind of players that they had. What do you think?
Well, I love Dusty Baker. I mean, just look at who managed the 2002 San Francisco Giants.
Great.
Against the Angels when the Angels won the World Series. But I think Williams is too much of a disciplinarian past a year or two. And coincidentally, I think this is the end of his second year, isn't it, Joe, or is it his third?
No, second.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I think he's already losing the club. I mean, some of the locker room and everything, he's already losing it. He doesn't get the respect that a manager needs to, but the manager also needs to turn around and show respect back to his players, too.
And that's very true, Tom. And I think in comparison, I think Mattingly is the same way. I really think you can't make your debut in the managing position in the major leagues. You can't do it. You have to work in the minor leagues and learn how to be a manager.
I agree 100%. I think that you hit it right on. I mean, some of the things, and since you brought Mattingly up, I think it was either Sunday or Monday, the day Jim Johnson got lit up, okay, you within a run or two, you're behind, and J.P. Howell's warming up in the bullpen. He leaves Johnson in, and Johnson gives up 5-6 more runs on top of the 3 that he had given up already, and it was against Pittsburgh, and they lose like 10-3.
Right, now you're out of it.
Instead of playing the percentages and bringing a lefty in to face a lefty, and Howell is a situational lefty. Mattingly has always used him as a one-out lefty, and then he'll go to whoever else in that arson squad. Bullpen.
Yeah, and that was actually a 13-6 defeat in that game. What you say is absolutely right.
And Tom's right. They could have, had Mattingly made the right decisions, they could have still won that game.
They could have stopped the bleeding early in it.
Very much
exactly.
so.
Instead, he leaves Johnson in, and then, after it got out of hand, of course you're going to leave Johnson in to save your bullpen. But had he done that right move, it might have been different.
And how much of that do you think is that he hasn't managed before, and how much of it do you think that he's an American League guy that never played National League baseball?
I think it's a little bit more towards he's an American League guy still, because he did. I mean, this is his second, right, Joe, or third? This is his second, I think, year of managing, and he had who I consider to be one of the best guys overall and a very good manager, but it took him some time, and Joe Torre. I mean,
yeah.
Torre was terrible when he was with the Cardinals and the Mets, and then all of a sudden he became the Yankee manager, and he was just the greatest manager ever.
Well, and he learned, and you got to give it to Joe. He learned what to do and how to do it, and it helps that he had a little better talent with the Yankees than he did with the other two teams.
Didn't Joe Torre spend most of his career in the American League?
No, National League. He was with the Braves.
Was he? I mean, as a player.
Yeah, he was with the Braves.
Really? I don't know why I thought he played
in the Cardinals.
Before he went to the Braves, correct me, Joe, but I think before he went to the Braves and made the name, he started with the Cardinals.
I believe that's true, but yeah, he is a National League guy.
Really? All these years I thought he was that he played most of his career in the American League.
No, he was a National League guy and a heck of a player too.
Yeah, he was. Yes, he was. But
that's what I get for not being around when he was playing.
I don't really think, guys, and just my 2 cents worth on the races, other than, is Houston or the Angels going to win the American League West, right now, the way the Mets are playing, and I know there's 2 months left to go, but the way the Mets are going, the Nationals aren't going to make the playoffs. And, in the National League West, neither the Dodgers or the Giants seem to be wanting to run away with it. They've all had opportunities. I don't know that there's, I think Toronto is going to run away because I think the changes to their offense and their defense, and the Yankees are good, but I don't have a lot of faith in the Yankees. I think pretty much all division leaders, and this is difficult for me to say, I think Houston's going to stay and win the American League West.
I do too, and I predicted that when the season first started, when the show first started, and I think they are too. I mean, they are, but again, like what you're saying, I mean, they're not running away with it. They're still struggling. They're not even playing 500 ball over their last 11 or 12 games, but they're in first place by a game and a half. So what's that say for the Angels? They're playing just as poorly and not taking advantage of the fact that the Astros aren't playing well.
Yep, very true. Very true. I think. And I'm jumping topics again here for a minute, but I think you guys will both agree. Remember last year when the Royals did what they did on their run and everything, and everybody thought, okay, it's now a 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th inning game?
Right.
Well, what are you seeing this year? You're seeing the Cubs coming up, and I know he's sitting there and he's got a grin on his face because I'm talking about the Cubs again. You see the Cubs with all of these kids. I mean, Starlin Castro was a kid, and this Addison Russell kid has kicked him out of a position. I mean, and it's the same thing you're seeing with the Cubs. You're seeing a lot. Look at the Mets rotation. 6 guys, and none of them are over, well, besides Bartolo Colon, but 5 of their 6 starters are below 25 years old.
Yeah, they're babies. I mean, they've got a future.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's scary. And you're laughing about Mr. Cub, but when we started the show, not today, but originally, and we were talking about the Cubs, and he said, look at this team. We're 2-3 years away, and I said, oh no, this could be the year too. They can do it, and they're coming. So he's real happy that they're living up to those expectations. And
well, it's just
I didn't think they were going to be there this year. I mean,
I didn't either.
Again, who was their manager?
Yeah, Joe Madden,
right.
Mr. Fun, Mr. Let's go play ball.
And who taught him how to be a manager?
Ocho.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's amazing how quickly, especially the Cubs. I mean, last year was how amazing the Royals were, okay, and where they came from. It shows, and this is where I think the last time we talked, this is where I agree, even though the Dodgers are catching a lot of guff for not making a trade and getting Hamels or Price. Well, it's not worth giving up Urias or giving up Seager or giving up the other kid who's a top 10 prospect also. I mean, and other than Hamels, he's the only one that signed past this year. So why give up your future
on a rental player?
Well, and I can't argue that. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, did they make a trade that they should have made? No, they didn't. But did they keep their future? Yes, they did. And I think in that case, that was the right call. I still think they could have done better in the trades that they did make without giving somebody up. But you're right. Between the two, I think you have to keep that future, and they did do that.
And I still think that you could have got some minor league prospect, a high prospect, for Crawford, and went ahead and moved him, and start building towards next year. Because this year, I mean, the Dodgers are going to have to play exceptional ball the rest of the year to hold off. That West Division, because there's some teams behind him, like the Giants, that are kicking on the door. And for some reason, the Giants always seem to get hot at the right time.
Well, and this whole season, and last year too, the Giants have the Dodgers number, and it doesn't matter who's playing good or bad, they're going to beat the Dodgers. That's just the way that it's been. Tom, what do you see in Long Beach regarding Crawford? I mean, what are the fans saying about why he should be playing, or what's Mattingly doing?
Well, I don't think at best Crawford's utility, and then who you going to sit? I mean, Ethier's having a better year than anybody ever thought he was going to.
Yeah, you can't sit him.
He's struggling, but he's at least starting to come in. You've got to play Jock Peterson. I mean, the kid is the future in center field.
Right.
He needs to cut down on strikeouts. This is his first year in the major leagues.
And you're right, and the only way you learn to cut down on strikeouts is by playing the game.
Yeah, yep. So I see Crawford being exactly, for the rest of the 2 months, even though he's signed next year also, I see him as being nothing more than utility when he wants to get another bat in the order and maybe sit Peterson for a game and rest, or maybe sit Puig and rest for a game. But Crawford's going to play maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that, because I think by far Ethier is a better outfielder than he is. By far.
Yes. Yep. I mean, it's frustrating, and I actually loved the trade that the Dodgers made with the Braves, because it brings you a 24-year-old pitcher in Wood. It brings you Avalon, who's going to be a one-inning left-hander. He's not so much a specialist. That's what Howell is.
Right. And
I thought getting Jim Johnson was going to solidify the 8th or 7th inning. Plus, they got this Peraza kid, and I don't know if you saw, they called him up, they sent him back down because Sterner's back now. But this Peraza kid plays second base, and there you go. So there's a kid, and he's considered a top 25 prospect in the minors. So and all they gave up was the Cuban kid, Ontiveros, or whatever, the kid that they just signed earlier in the year.
Right, the one who never lived up to that money right off the bat.
Yes, Ontiveros, I think that was his name. So I loved it. Well, since Johnson is being lit up, Wood gets you into the 6th. Of course, he's only throwing 2 starts, but he's gotten us into the 6th, but he's never been able to get out of the 6th. So it's the kind of thing where I loved the trade, and I actually still like it because I believe in Wood as he continues to grow, and I like this. I watched the 2 games that he was playing and started at second base before they sent him down yesterday when Turner was reinstated from the DL. And very good fielder, hits the ball, has no problem putting the ball into right field. I mean, he looks like he's a epitome of a number 2 hitter. Now, would he take Howie Kendrick's spot this year on the team? Heck no. When he gets back.
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. We were talking a little bit earlier about for both Los Angeles teams, Scioscia and Mattingly, and if they don't win it this year, they could be gone. Do you think, is that the word out there?
Mattingly, yes. I think with Scioscia, I think you saw the power struggle with Jerry Dipoto and who won that. So I don't think Scioscia will be gone if they don't win it. I think he's that much, and it's not exactly how I'm going to say it, but I think he's that much in Artie Moreno's pocket that he will not be fired.
Well, and I do think that there's no doubt.
One of the talks out here was that Bud Black was going to come, and Scioscia would move up to the GM spot, or Black would get the GM spot.
That wouldn't hurt either. I mean, Black's very knowledgeable. But I really think at this time, with the people who are out there, that Scioscia is the best manager in the game right now.
I agree.
I don't know.
I do. I
mean, Scioscia's really a good manager, but I mean, you've got to take into consideration the Joe Madden at Tampa and what he did there. Now what he's done with the Cubs.
I agree with that.
You cannot have that conversation and leave Joe Madden out of that conversation right now today.
I think he's definitely in the conversation, but you got to.
I was hoping that they'd fire Mattingly and that Madden would come to the Dodgers.
Yeah, he's not for sale. We're going to hang on to him a little while.
I mean, before he signed with the Cubs, he's from this area. His stepson lives here in Long Beach, and I know his second wife has moved there with him, but she is originally, and so is Joe from the Southern California market. And I thought, wow, this is perfect.
Well, and until he signed with the Cubs, that was the rumor that he was coming to LA.
You guys do know what the kicker was for the Madden deal, right?
I don't think we want to know, Tom.
Benny's. Do you not see Joe Madden? Benny, if it's not worth drinking, it ain't at Benny's. Joe got the party hookup. He can't get that on the West Coast, man. Benny's hooking him up, fine cigars, the best of the best.
Something tells me we have that in LA too.
That was the bonus.
I think LA has some pretty good bonuses out there.
Well, we got him, and you know what I can say about that? Nah.
Well, you're right, because I'd rather have him.
And when he leaves, I'll be on this same show crying. So I'm going to enjoy it while I have it.
I think he's going to be there for the next 5 or 6 years at least.
The way they're playing, and the way what is it, 12 in a row now by winning today?
Yeah, they're 12 of 13 as of today.
Yeah, it'll be 8 in a row. 8 in a row, but 12 out of their last 13.
And on top of that, you look at. I'll tell you, Tom, something on top of all that. If you got to look at it, Anthony Rizzo today in the last 11 games, he's hit 8 home runs, 23 RBIs. And Chris Bryant's four home runs with 18 RBIs, and the kid Kyle Schreiber, the one that I told everybody to look out for, him and Addison Russell. Schreiber's hit 5 home runs, 13 RBIs in 10 games.
Not that he's watching the Cubs specifically, though, Tom.
Well, I'm going to make him smile again, Joe, because I'm also going to make a great compliment, and I know. Everywhere it was on everybody's plays of the week. What about Rizzo's?
Jumping in the stands.
Oh, my gosh, was that something? That was amazing.
To Wrigley Field, my friend.
That was amazing. And fun to watch.
What blew me away was that the umps had to get together to see if they were going to call it an out. He was still leaning in, but the tarp was on the field. So it's an out because he was in the field catching and then went into the stands.
I was just glad to see that they made the right call.
Yes.
Me too, because they may not have got out of Chicago that night. That play right there, they may not have got out of Chicago.
I know I made a lifelong friend. I talked about the Cubs 3 or 4 times.
Anytime you want to come to the coast, man, I'll take you out. We'll do some fishing. I'll take you to all the fine places we have here. Absolutely.
Tom, we really appreciate you calling in. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. You're a great baseball fan, and we appreciate your participation.
You bet, buddy. You guys have a good rest of the night.
All right, you too. Thank you very much.
All right, bye.
Bye.
What if I told you that you were thirsty? You were thirsty for something that you couldn't describe. It's like coming onto the promise, just a trickle, even a glimmer of moisture, of water in the vast desert. What if I told you that there's a fountain beneath you, like a river flowing deep and blue and cold? That if you found this, that you could drink like a kid who drinks glass after glass of water from the tap after playing kickball all day in July? What if I told you that others would run with their tin cups and ladles, their pots and buckets, their hopes, fears, regrets, pasts and futures, up to your side just to catch some of this water? What if I told you that there is more for you? There is more for us. There is more for this desert.
Wind is blowing from the corners. Bones are rattling in the dust. The wind is blowing from the corners. The wind is blowing from the corners. Bones are rattling in the dust. The wind is blowing from the corners. Come to life. Baseball season's underway. Well, you better get ready for a brand new day. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are gonna win today. They're singing, go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go! Hey, Chicago, what do you say? My Cubs are gonna win today. Go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go!
Couldn't help myself.
Welcome back. And those of you who want to participate in the little bit of time we have left, please give us a call at 850-435-4007.
Or in the great words of Harry Carey, let's get some runs.
There you go. Boy, would Harry Carey be loving this team right now.
I would kill him. This team would kill Harry Carey, man.
This team
As
is
exciting as they are right now and the way they're winning ball games. I mean, today they beat the White Sox 6-5. This would kill Harry.
And those hometown rivalries are fun to win. It motivates you. The kids want to be Chicago. You know, they want to be all of Chicago.
Enough Budweiser in the city of Chicago to get Harry Carey through this season.
Well, I don't think there was any season for that, but that's a whole other story. But you know, like we've been talking about, and I think everybody is online with the fact that just the Blue Jays, the Mets, and the Cubs are just streaking at the right time.
They're separating themselves from the rest of Major League Baseball.
So. Very much, even in the fact, I mean, you know, and as good as the Cubs are playing, they're 7.5 back. Yeah. But as good as they're playing, there's a lot of time left to keep it up and get in those playoffs. And
a lot of time.
They're gonna.
A lot of time left. Cubs doing things they haven't done in a long time. If you're a Cubs fan,
like win?
Yeah, you are absolutely beside yourself right now. I have never seen so many white W flags in Wrigley at one time in my life.
I don't think anybody has. And you know, and again, as good as Madden is, you have to go to the team and what Epstein has done. You know, when you look at, and we've said it every show, not only do they have one of the best young lineups in the game, their AAA and AA teams are the best in the minors. I mean,
yes, sir.
They have the young talent where they are going to be competitive, by trades and by the players that they have for years and years and years to come. He has set them up for success for a long time.
And hopefully we keep him around and he continues to build good program. I mean, if you look at what he did in Boston, when the word came out that we had him, everybody expected it immediately. But then if you go and look at the track record, it took him a year or two in Boston because what he does, he doesn't go out and sell the farm. He builds the minor league farm system and then picks from what they already own.
And that's exactly right. Not only does he get the players in, but he spends that first year watching who they have and is this what I want on this team or not. And he makes the good calls. He knows what he's doing, surrounds himself with great scouts, great scouting department, and their developmental teams are just phenomenal.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of things right. The Blue Jays, golly, you can't say enough about those guys.
I'm really, really happy for the Blue Jay fans because they're in Toronto, because they've never won. People just don't realize this. I think in America we know that win or lose, there's those Chicago Cubs and their loyal fans. Everybody understands that. The fans in Toronto are just as loyal for the Blue Jays. There's just not as many of them, and people don't know about it. But they are some very, very loyal fans, and they really deserve to have this streak and this going on. I'm really happy for the people in Toronto.
Yeah, it's nice to see baseball being played in Toronto instead of hockey on the baseball diamond. Eh?
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 Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I really am happy for those people. My wife and I have been to games in Toronto and watched them play, and the fans there are behind that team, even when, just like with the Cubs, even when there was no reason to be, they were there, they were loyal, they were cheering, and they deserve this, just like the Cub fans do. Fun to watch.
Well, Joe, we got 2 minutes left in tonight's show. Man, it has flown by as it usually does.
It's really moved. I would like to take the time to thank our callers, Pat from Newark, New Jersey, for sharing his wisdom and expertise, especially regarding Yankee baseball, but baseball in general. And
your son.
And Tom from Long Beach, California, again, just baseball knowledgeable, knows what's going on, and is able to share it with us, and I really appreciate them two calling in. Now that's the second time they've each called in, and the show is just much better with them on, and hopefully you all enjoyed that.
And we'll be back on the we'll have to start moving the date, so we'll be back on the 29th, which is going to be a Saturday, because on the 28th, which would be a normal show, we will be bringing you Escambia High School football as the high school football season kicks off with our high school game of the week between Escambia and West Florida. That's a 7 p.m. kickoff. But, Joe, I have to be at the stadium at like 5.
There you go.
So the Inside Pitch will move to Saturday. We know you checked the website. We'll get all the updated information on the website in case we have to move it to a Thursday or something to accommodate Mr. Manzolino's schedule. He's busy over there on the beach working on that tan. Guys, for myself, Paul Marini, and Joe Manzolino, we will see you guys in 2 weeks.
Thank you all for listening. Have a good evening. Enjoy your weekends.
Big Harry Carey fan. I love it. I love Harry Carey, and I love and I just Harry, of course, did the first baseball game ever played. You guys are aware of that.
Sure.
Yeah, he was the only guy around at that time to do that game, and it was wonderful. I got an old tape of it, and I listened to it all the time. Hello, fans. This is Harry Carey. Welcome to today's game between the Bethlehem Braves and the Jerusalem Giants. Kind of a sparse crowd here today, as a plague of locusts has made it tough to get out to the ballpark. You can hear the vendors, the